is actually our first episode. We think this is the right way to get our message out, to talk about what we think is massively changing in this industry. I'm Trevor Clark, co-host of the Rocket Fuel podcast, founder, CEO of ShiftOff. I have with me Nate Namor, our head of strategic partnerships, also at ShiftOff. We're a couple of GigCX pros, I guess, and
or fanatics.
Fanatics, probably. Yeah, that's a good point. But I mean, the reality is, we think that there's a ton of change happening in our industry, right? Like, I mean, everywhere you turn away. We just got back from a conference. The entire discussion was around AI, and last year it was all around workforce changes. This year, now that everyone's talking about how do we use AI to get people back in the office, and it's a mess. I mean, there's so much that's changed in the last 2 to 3 years, and I think this is a great time to really reevaluate contact centers. So anyway, let's just kind of start with that. We have been saying for 2-3 years, I think maybe even a little early into the conversation, that the workforce has changed. What do you think of that? Like, how and you've only been a part of ShiftOff for like 4 months, so you have a totally different perspective. I'd love to hear what you think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from the conference we went to in Boston, Massachusetts, great city, but we were talking a lot about flexibility, and we were in a round table and we were like talking about, to a bunch of different people from across the world and different industries, and somebody says, so how do you get people to come back in the office? And so we were talking, and we're like, well, why do you want people back in the office? Well, we're an in-person company.
How do you answer that without like?
It's like, well, why are you an in-person company? Yeah. Well, we are. So what did you do during COVID? Well, they were at home. I was like, oh, so how did they perform at home? Well, better than in office. Yeah. So like, well, why do you want to bring them back? And it's kind of like a showstopper. And so I think, as the workforce changes, it is demanding flexibility. But I think there's a lot of use cases and proven, metrics and data when we're talking, and this is actual research, right? That performance is better at home when people do want to work and they're committed to it, rather than feeling forced to do something that they believe isn't necessary anymore.
Yeah, when I hear people talk about bringing the workforce back into the office, for certain roles, I think it's a really, we're in the office all the time. I think that makes a lot of sense, but I think majority of roles probably not. And it feels like friction. It's like every time someone brings it up, they're like, my executive team wants me to do this. Man, I'm so afraid of it. And then one of the individuals we spoke with at that roundtable was saying that their attrition they started bringing people back in the office, and their attrition was almost double, maybe triple what it was previously. She said there were basically no attrition, and now it's becoming a problem. And that's, to me, like, we should see that coming, right? I mean, a lot of people like work at home. And when you start to force them back in the office, they're basically saying, no, man, it's not for me. Like, there's all these other options. I can get this flexibility somewhere else. So that's part of the deal now. I don't think we put the genie back in the bottle.
Well, to your point, there's options now.
Right.
Pre-2020, there were really no options, I mean, it was either you worked for a remote company or you didn't. And now there are options. So when that individual is saying, well, our attrition's spiking, what's the cost associated with it? You let that person go, then you rehire, then you retrain, then you get them back up to proficiency. Well, just tell them, ask them, what can you do? Do you want to come to the office at all? Okay, no, I don't. Well, then here's a plan, and here are the metrics that we need you to hit.
And to your point, like, what's the purpose? If you've got a really solid remote team, why do you need to bring them in?
But I think there's got to be a choice. Like, for us, we're in the office 24/7, but that's my choice. If I need to work from home, I'd work from home. But I don't like to do that. So I think the choice is really where the workforce is going to. And if you're not going to provide that choice, you're going to be left behind. So,
and what do you think's kind of changed in the past 2-3 years from a choice perspective? Like, why all of a sudden is there choice? What do you think?
I think trade-offs. People used to look at the workforce as, when I'm in the office or it's a Monday through Friday, I can't do this, I can't do ABC, right? Well, now I think I can work from home and then make my schedule around what I need to do for your family, for your personal life, health-wise, mental health, whatever it is. And so I think when you're talking about choice, people don't want to work from home to watch TV. They want their life to continue to be streamlined.
Yeah, I think we all learned how much we were giving up when, day before the pandemic to call it a month later, we were like, wait a minute, is really, there's a lot of time I spent commuting to the office or flying somewhere every week. And I think we all kind of realize, like, there's a lot more we can get by having balance and, to your point, choice and flexibility to build my schedule around my life. And now they don't have to work against each other. Now they can work together. And I think the other thing that's changed in the past couple of years is probably just like, we had an opportunity to see that it's actually not so scary. Like, you can get people can have this choice and flexibility, and the business can still thrive.
Sure.
And so now we've cleared a total, let's say, blocker in terms of being able to get adoption in that sort of mindset. Now we see it, and it actually works really well. And
and I think most people in the world have a global sense of responsibility that's close to home, where people need to make money. People have to make money. People want to support. People want, to accomplish milestones. But, so again, like, there's responsibility in the workforce. We don't live in a world or society where everything is given to you and everyone. We're not in a utopia, So people do need, to carry that responsibility with them, but they just want the responsibility at home or where it works for them. Yeah.
There's no reason for them to be in conflict, right?
Right.
And I think the old way of, we talk a lot about traditional contact centers, right? I like to, when I think of a traditional contact center, I think of when I was reading George Orwell's 1984, and someone's always watching me. I've got to be in my seat at a certain time.
Misery.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, it's a terrifying concept.
But I think with a contact center, your schedule is sort of mandated.
Yeah.
And gosh, you better hope you have been there for a long time and are performing really well to get the schedule you want. But if you're not, you're probably going to be working nights and weekends, and it's just going to be hard. And if your schedule changes at all, and imagine you have little ones at the house, I mean, that's really disruptive, and it's really, really hard. And then let's say you're dealing with all these schedule changes, and then you get to the office and you're told exactly when to log on, how many calls per hour to do, or these quality metrics have to be hit, or else. It's a very do
or die.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good. And I just think that when you look at gig, and that is kind of back to what we geek out on a daily basis, it's like, well, we can change that actually, and you put choice back into the mix. If I choose to work these hours, or if I choose to do this, I take a different approach to it than someone told me how to do it.
It's back to like accountability, responsibility. Yeah. All right, so we get this question a lot, so I'll pose it to you. But what happens when somebody says, "Well, a GigCX model really works and it sounds great, but it sounds too good to be true"? Because how do I train somebody, or how do I rely on somebody rather that only works 2 hours a day? Like, I'm investing in them, and they're only giving you 2 hours a day. Now they may be choosing to work those 2 hours a day. They may be working, but what are your thoughts about how do you answer that?
2 hours a day.
Severe example, maybe.
Yeah.
But let's, even if you doubled it and said, well, what if somebody just works 4 hours a day and then takes a Tuesday off and then picks up another 3 hours? Like, why am I investing in that?
Yeah. So I get kind of nerdy with this one, because when you look at a full-time employee, you're wildly overestimating how much time they actually work. So in a 40-hour work week, right? So pretty common shrinkage assumption is around 35%. In fact, most companies are probably worse than that. So you just take 35% of your 40 week and you're left with 26. And then you divide that by 5 days a week, you're working 5.2 hours a day. So if you tell me somebody's going to work 2-ish hours a day versus 5-ish hours a day, it seems like my part-time problem is solved. And then also I think 2 hours a day is enough to be really good at something. Okay, so there's one way to look at it. The other is, the reality is, when people have flexibility, they're not working 2 hours a day. They're actually working more like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
It's not about getting people to work less. They still need to work those hours. They still need the income. To your point, they have responsibilities.
Right.
But they just want it on their own terms. So you actually end up getting people that maybe even want to work more than your normal amount, because it works so well for their life. They become better at the job than even your full-time people. So it's a funny question, because it's based on this assumption that people are working the bare minimum, but they're not.
Yeah, it's not even close to that.
No, they have to. Yeah. They're there to provide. This is just another medium for them to do really well for their family.
Yeah, and they're given such flexibility that they don't have you unarm excuses of I can't make it to the office or I can't make these hours, etc. Right? Like that doesn't exist inside the GigCX model because they're choosing from the comfort of their own home what hours to work.
Right.
And they're committing to the client, they're committing to you that they're going to be there.
The onus is on themselves.
Yeah, but I think to that onus, like you have to also keep in mind that you still have to perform. Right. So how do you measure performance? Well, you talk a lot about reliability and responsibility. And so, what we really like is like, we talk a lot about, Southwest and Uber from a comparison perspective where, you go in a Southwest flight and you can check in 24 hours early, but it's almost a race to do that. Right. You have to wake up on that time. I'm boarded. Now I get A group. Now I get to pick anywhere on the plane that I get to sit. So I think, from a GigCX model, how do you incorporate that and reward good behavior? And it's the same. It's the better you are, the more reliable you are, the better shifts or the capacity of shifts it's wider, it's larger.
Yeah, I mean,
that you get to pick from, right?
We have way
so you have
more,
even more flexibility,
more leverage to get the performance right. Over the past 2 years, I mean, how many times have you heard any of our customers or anybody we talk to at these events say it's so hard to find and retain people? Yeah. Well, I know we've got like 30,000 people, in our platform waiting to work, right? Like there's a line out the door, so to speak, of people wanting this type of work. So with this type of flexibility and appealing to the demands of the market, suddenly now you can expect a higher degree of performance. And to your point, well, the flexibility is somewhat of a privilege, right?
It has to be.
And that's the way we look at it. It's like you want to call your shots, and that's great. I respect that, and you should. But in order to have it's like a team sport. In order to play the position that you want to be the quarterback. Well, you got to put the work in. You need to show up on time. You need to make your passes. You need to do what's expected. Then you can be the quarterback.
Right.
Or for us, if you want to be in this flexible role, you need to show up on time. You need to hit the KPIs. Right. You need to be accountable to yourself to put in the work, and to kind of be good enough to continue.
Yeah.
That's the reality of the world.
Yeah. Right? So I guess if somebody's thinking, well, this feels like a great idea, but like how do you even begin? How do you start? I think our biggest thing is, well, you start like anything you do, start small, right? You show up. And then from showing up, you kind of start doing things. So I think with the clients that we've worked with, we've already started with this whole kind of prove it concept of, it's great. We are forward thinkers and this is what we believe in because it's already worked, number one, but this is where the workforce is going to. And so we start small. And I think when you start small, you're able to master things because you're not juggling 1,000 different,
you don't have to rip your whole contact center apart to get this done.
Yeah, I agree. But I think, even when we're talking about in Boston, I mean, sophisticated clients and sophisticated decision makers and executives are realizing that better customer experience kind of stems from flexibility and really good agent experience. And so before we can focus on the customer experience, you have to focus on the agent experience and then kind of unfold the pain points. And I think the pain points are the old ways of showing up in the office and not working in a department that you want to work in and not working the hours that you want to work in because you have to, you feel forced and there hasn't been any other options.
I thought was really weird, funny about that event this week was to your point, all right, so the whole week we're talking about technology and oh my gosh, everyone had AI in their topics, including us actually. We're not innocent here, but let's just say it was in every single conversation until we bring in the idea that actually we should be using AI to make your agent experience better.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I heard anyone advocating for
backwards.
It was so backwards.
Yeah.
The first time I heard anyone all week say, or all day or 2 days, whatever it was, anything about people. It was all about technology and AI and erasing volume. But it was a customer experience summit, right?
Right.
Like I'm a big believer, and I think most of us really are when you think about it. The better you take care of or the better environment you create for your agents, the better environment they create for your customers. And those customers keep coming back.
Right.
So everything you do from a customer experience perspective, I think really begins with the agent experience. And we get that wrong and we forget about it all the time.
Yeah.
And I think this is where GigCX basically advocates for the agent more than anything out there. So I just thought it was funny because we're talking about ultimately the CX thing, but the first thing you got to do is make sure your people are happy.
Yeah, and I think from the happiness and like creating a really strong agent experience, you create and you invent this engaged workforce who are really trying to do the work for you, and they want to do the work and they're showing up to do so. So you create such a high level of engagement that's probably, I mean, I would argue it's impossible to replicate inside a regular center.
You can't, no.
You know, but no, it's good points.
Yeah, you're talking a little bit about what we call, I guess, priority boarding. I can't imagine. I don't know how that would be possible in a traditional model, right? Because like, what do? We always have quite a few more agents in a pool. They're always dedicated, right? So they know our clients' accounts inside and out. You know, let's say you need 10 people. We probably have 30 people that are just truly amazing.
Yeah.
Maybe 50, depending on, there's a lot of things we look at. But the top 20, 30% of that group always has first pick of the schedules,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So like,
through good behavior that we've tracked and we monitor and
high performance, right? So it's like, how do I get into that? How do I make sure that I have that control? Well, okay, now I'm competitive. Like that's like tapping into all of those like human elements. Like we're just like, okay, I just need to hit this goal, or I need to be better than so-and-so, or I need to be, I need to do the work. And so you kind of create this alignment where the better they succeed for the company or for the project, the more it actually directly affects them. Whereas in a traditional employment model, you lose a lot of that. You're just getting told to do stuff.
Yeah.
So we're really just tapping back into what really makes people tick, gets them excited.
I mean, I don't think people really want to be told what to do, especially in the United States right now in our society. I think it's more of, you know, how can we help you, but what are your goals and how do you succeed in achieving these goals based on what you have? And I think being told to hit this metric, like agents don't care about.
You want autonomy.
Metrics. You know, yeah, I mean.
It's almost like if you tell me to do something, this might be another issue altogether, so I'm getting really personal.
Might be a personal issue.
But if you tell me to do something, it takes all the joy out of it. Meaning like now I'm responding to something someone else wants. But if I'm in control and I get to choose to do something, again, choice, I think maybe the theme of this whole discussion, I think, really comes down to choice.
Yeah, well, that was the theme about Boston, but it was backwards still, because it was, how do we tell people to come back to the office? It was like, well, there has to be choice involved. Well, there can't be choice involved. Right. It's like, well, that's the issue right there. There needs to be choice. There needs to be flexibility. And so I think when you have the choice and the flexibility, you know, you really, like the whole theme is you really create this really engaged and flexible workforce that wants to work for you and their clients.
Yeah.
Right. So.
No, and so I think we talked a lot about the agent perspective, and even the kind of U.S. or maybe global, but mostly U.S. workforce kind of challenges and how this all kind of plays. But what does it really mean from an operations and maybe a business perspective as well? So I mean, like why would a business or a contact center team want to offer this flexibility? I mean, let's say they don't care about their people, which is a totally different issue. But you could park that aside and say, what does it mean to them? How does it help them?
Well, I think it helps them because, you know, if a business is businesses may not care about their people. Like, okay, sure, but like they do care about their clients.
Right.
You know, so again, if you don't care about your people, you're not giving them what they're asking for, just staying in with the times, then there's no possible scenario where you're going to have a good customer experience.
And we hear all the time,
no possible scenario.
It's so hard to have my contact center there when my customers are calling. So, in fact, I used to deal with this quite often before we started Shift Off. It was like 6 p.m. every night. My call volume this is a large telecommunications company.
Yeah.
My call volume would start spiking, but all of the full-time agents that we had
already worked 7 hours.
They finished their day. They're clocking out.
Rightfully so.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then we had this big gap. So that's just, that was my 6 p.m. gap. And then we had other issues where, okay, maybe there's a seasonal component to the business, which, in telecom it was summer. It was really busy. You got other industries like tax, which, you need thousands of people for January through April. So flexibility, in my opinion, okay, sure, agents benefit a lot, but man, contact centers have been trying to solve flexibility problems for decades. And so I don't know, to me, it seems like there's a good alignment there. What do you think?
Well, I think there's a big misconception in the workforce, and I think we've always lived by it, where people want to work 9 to 5 or people want to work 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. or whatever it is. Where I think in the GigCX model is you have such strong diversification of needs, and you really unlock it when you say, hey, we need people at this time of day, at this time of day, at this time of day. Well, the people that are working at night are not going to work during the day, and nor they shouldn't, right? Because they can't. They have things in their life where they have to attend to, and that's their right as a human. But vice versa, people can't work at night, right?
Yeah, generally speaking, you're not going to find the people you need.
So I think what happens with contact centers is they're going out and hiring 9 to 5 people, but they need 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. covered, for example, and they're going in that same pool of recruitment to find those people, and it's never going to work.
Yeah.
It's just never going to work. So I think when you unlock in the GigCX and you have a diversification of needs and talent, we talk a lot about seasonality and flexibility, and our clients who have strong seasons, whether it's October, February, September, and they say, hey, we need, double or triple the amount that we needed 3 months ago, and we need a more hours covered. Well, there's going to be people inside of our network who we already have data on, who we already know have worked those hours before we even unleash it to the reps, that are going to pick up those shifts.
Yeah.
And we're not going after the same recruitment models that traditional contact centers or businesses do. So I think you really that's a huge value add in GigCX is
you can get more
diversification.
You can get more specific to it, your staffing needs. Like you can actually say, oh, I need 100 people at 10. I say this all the time. I need 100 people at 10 a.m. on Tuesday, but then an hour later, you maybe only need 10.
Yeah.
Well, in a traditional model, that's impossible to operate, right? But with us, you can actually get down to, or GigCX, let's just say, you can get down to that 30-minute interval. So you're not only solving, to your point, like this talent pool issue where the 9 to 5 people are really not going to also help you solve nights, weekends.
Right.
You're then getting it into even more specifics where it's like they're building a 30-minute schedule every 30 minutes. So you've infinitely unlocked, your ability to staff to your demand.
Well, they're building it on a 30-minute level, but to your point earlier, they're not working 30 minutes.
No, oh my gosh, no. They're working hours. But
and when people say, how can you go down all of a sudden from 100 to like 50, for example, in 24 hours? Well, there's going to be more hours available, so your reps are just picking up the hours that they need on a Tuesday. Right. Versus trying to, oh man, now I need it on a Wednesday. And if they need it on Wednesday and they're in a priority boarding, for example, they can get it.
Yeah.
Or there might be another campaign where they're certified on and they passed everything. Well, they can go get it. But you're really able to, like to your point, really match it up at the interval level.
And you don't need to release more hours than you need either. So
we never overstaff.
You never have
I think
to.
that's a big question. Well, you certify 3x more people than we need. Well, we're doing it for you because you're not feeling attrition ever.
Yeah, you never actually pay for that. Ever.
Well, not even that. Yeah, for sure. That's a huge business ad. But you're never feeling attrition where you're going these, in my past firm, I used to go in this 10 a.m. meeting. Oh man, Trevor called out today, or Nate's not here today, or this person gave 2 weeks, where we don't have those issues. Okay, people may do that. They may leave, but because we're certifying people, we're just.
Yeah, they'll release their shift and then you've got 20 other people clamoring to go pick it up. We could probably sit here all day and talk and never recover a single base.
Yeah.
And still have more to talk about. And so it's probably a good time to say, all right, look, this is just the beginning, right? We're barely scratching the surface about how this translates to real results in the business. We haven't even talked about the cost savings. We haven't talked about how technology and AI is going to even make this even better. We haven't, there's so many more. So I think this is probably a good time to say, thanks for listening, and let us know what you want to listen, what you want to hear from us. Give us, reach out to us on LinkedIn. We're just kind of starting this conversation. We think it's necessary.
We also need it. It's our advice.
It is, yeah.
Everyone else in the office gets sick of us talking about it, so we actually needed
this is our outlet.
Yeah.
they're all like, thank God we can get some work done.
That's true.
But anyway, for those of you who listen, thank you so much. Nate and I will probably just keep chatting about this after.
Yeah, sounds good. We're on LinkedIn and we're shiftoff.com. So if you guys need us, find us there.
Yeah.
But we'd love to talk to people.
Awesome. Talk to you guys soon. Thank you.